Hi friends, hope you all are doing good. In today's video, we are going to discuss about National Voluntary Guidelines, which is a very important topic for CMA Final law paper. So, which is a mandatory question come from corporate governance area. So, this is one of the important area from law perspective. So, let's start with National Voluntary Guidelines. In this video, I'm going to convey some important tips and tricks to understand national voluntary guidelines for the purpose of examination. So I request you to kindly watch this video continuously for the next 30 minutes and grasp all the points. I request you to keep the institute textbook with you along with any notepad, and at the same time I'm also giving you my own notes that would be very useful. So let's start. So before starting national voluntary guidelines, I'm going to tell you that this guideline, these principles that we are going to discuss now, are going to be very easily understandable based on my own view. Okay, I have given some views, some assumptions, some steps to be followed. Based on that, you'll be able to easily retain these 9 principles for the purpose of examination. Let's begin. National Voluntary Guidelines. National Voluntary Guidelines has 9 principles. These 9 principles are applicable for businesses. The objective of this principle is to achieve sustainable growth and economic development. So, that is the only objective. So, let's begin with each of this principle. Before getting into the principle, I'm going to give you one view. That's my own view about these 9 principles. What I have done is I've just splitted these 9 principles into 3 categories, which is nothing but level 1 and level 2 and level 3 for the purpose of easy understanding. I've classified the first 3 principles into level 1, and I've classified the next 3 principles into level 2, and I've classified the last 3 principles into level 3. What is level 1? What is level 2? What is level 3? Which is nothing but level 1 is a basic level, level 2 is out of box level from my perspective, and level 3 is something that is applicable to the top level businesses. If you want to retain the knowledge of this particular 9 principles, you have to go based on this assumption. Let's start with an example. Always keep this example while reading these 9 principles. If you are going to start an enterprise, if you are going to start your own business, think these 9 principles from your business perspective, and you will be able to achieve these 9 principles easily. If you are going to run your own business, first thing is that you have to cross level 1, which is nothing but the basic things that you have to follow. That means basic principles you have to follow to make sure that your business makes profit and also creates value to the overall environment as such. So now, first principle number 1: business should conduct and govern themselves with ethics, transparency, and accountability. Which is nothing but at level 1, what you normally do is we'll create some controls, checks, and procedures with relating to ethics, transparency, and accountability. I've compiled these 3 words into ETA: ethics, transparency. Business creates some controls, checks, points in place with respect to ETA. That is the first step normally a business person will do. And then the next step is business provide goods and services that are safe and contribute to sustainability throughout the life cycle. So business normally make sure the products and services reach to their end customer with full satisfaction, so that the customer will come back and buy their products and avail the services. And with this point, we can be very clear that business have to make sure that the products and services are 100% quality and also safe throughout the life cycle. So that is something basic any business will take care. The third one is related to employees. You have created some controls in point 1, and you make sure that the products are safe throughout the life cycle in point 2, and in point 3 we are going to talk about employees. So with relating to employees, there are few points. So this is basic, and then let's go to level 2. Level 2 is out of box. When we talk about out of box, I mean out of box areas with respect to business, like stakeholders. What are the different stakeholders affected as a result of your business? Principle number 4. Principle number 5: business should respect and promote human rights. This is with respect to human rights, which is another out of box area. As part of doing business, you also have to abide by the human rights, rules and regulations. And then principle number 6 is also same. Principle number 5, principle number 6, the core elements are almost same. Okay, let's go to level 3. Level 3 is something exclusively for the top level business. In the initial, okay, just before I said, you take an example that you are doing a business. Okay, now if you are doing a business, and if that business has gone to a top level and your business has reached the maximum level, now level 7 and 8 and 9 is something that you have to think and provide some value to your business and also to the environment. Principle number 7 suggests that while doing policy advocacy, that means you are a very, you're creating a very big business. Your business, your industry, you're controlling this entire industry, and at that time, you suggest certain policies and procedures, and you give your view in terms of certain policies and procedures. At that point of time, what are all the do's and don'ts that you have to make sure. Okay, principle number 8 is very, very useful for the business as well as to the entire environment. This principle 8 talks about inclusive growth and equitable development. What is inclusive growth? Inclusive growth means developing all the sectors of the people, all the different caste of the people equally without any biased views. Okay, with the equal view, are we going to achieve this objective? Principle number 8. Principle number 9. Principle number 9, business should engage with and provide value to the customers and consumers in a responsible manner. Okay, like I said previously, principle 7 and principle 8 and principle 9 are for top level business. Think from that perspective. For a top level business, they have to think these areas, like what are the policy advocacy they have to think, that will be covered under policy, that under principle 7. So with respect to inclusive growth and equitable development is covered under principle 8. And at the last area, while creating value to your customer, you have to make sure that is done in a responsible manner. That is principle number 9. So I have classified in these 3 levels. So the reason why I have classified into these 3 levels is that if any of the principle been tested, you have to make sure first in which level these principles are tested. So you can recall all those points with respect to the respective levels. So level 3 is for top level business. Level 1 is for the basic business, and level 2 is out of box. When I say out of box with respect to all the stakeholders and with respect to human rights and also to retain the environment. That is point 4, 5 and 6. Okay, let's go into detail with respect to each of these principles. Before getting in detail with respect to these principles, one point I would like to give, which is very, very useful. So, okay, in my notes, I have just given some keywords that are very, very useful to easily understand, to easily grasp, to easily retain these principles. Okay, all these principles are categorized into 2. One is principle and the other area is core element. Those principles, okay, there are few points with respect to principles, and then we will be reading core elements. Those core elements are applicable for business, and the principle that I am referring now, all the principal points are something that what that principle trying to convey, what that principle assumes, what that principle acknowledges is what given. So now with respect to core elements, all the core elements are for the business. All the core elements start with business. Okay, business should. There is a word. No, these core elements will begin with business should. Okay, it is very easy. Let's get into principle number 1. Like I said, the basic principle. Business should conduct and govern themselves based on ethics, transparency, and accountability. So, with respect to this, I have given few keywords, which is nothing but DCETRT. Okay, this is with respect to core elements. So when we talk about core elements now, business have to make sure business should okay these keywords are with respect to core elements like DCE, TRT. Let's begin. Okay, business should develop governance structures and procedures. When I say D, it means develop. When I say C, it means communicate. When I say E, it means engage. When I say T, it means truthfully. And when I say R, it means report. When I say T, the final, which is nothing but third party. So what you have to do is just highlight these words in your core elements and then begin and then study. Okay, now first point, business should develop governance structures. When I say develop, means develop governance structures, procedures, and practices that ensure ethical conduct at all levels and promote the adoption of this principle across its value chain. Okay, and the next point is communicate. When I say develop, means develop governance structures, procedures, and plans. When I say communicate transparently to all the stakeholders. Information about the decision and the impact to relevant stakeholders. When I say engage, means business should not engage in abusive, corrupt, or anti-competition. When I say report, means business have to do the reporting part. Business should report on the status of their adoption of these guidelines as suggested in the reporting framework in this document. When I say third party, that means business should avoid complicity with the actions of any third party. Business should not engage with any kind of business activity with relating to those third party. Okay, so like I said previously, DCE, TRT, keep these points in mind, and you'll be able to recall the principal points. Okay, that's the short nutshell about principle number 1. In my notes, you'll be able to see some ratios. In principle number 1, I say 2:6. That means there are 2 principal points given and 6 points with respect to core elements. So when you think about principle number 1, it's 2:6. That means 2 principal points and 6 core elements. 6 core elements. When I say core element, it means those points are relevant to the business. All the points should begin with business should. Okay, and then you can like I said, I've just given DCETRT. You just have to add business. When I say D means develop. Business should develop governance structures, procedures, and practices. So same way CET. Start with the word business should and then use these letters. Using these letters, you'll be able to recall the words like develop, communicate, engage, truthfully, report, third party. Okay, and then the last point is 2:6 ratio. Let's go to the next principle. Okay, now like I said, the first 3 principles are basic. Okay, when you start a business, these 3 principles are basic for you, right? Now the next step is you have developed a product or services. That product or service is going to be in the hands of your customers throughout the life cycle. Okay, so now you are responsible for its uses and also for its safety disposal. So now as a business person, you have to think whether your product or your services from a full life cycle perspective. So this point, business should provide goods and services that are safe and contribute to sustainability throughout the life cycle. Under this, the ratio is 2:6. There are 2 points with respect to principle and 6 points with respect to core elements. Now, I've given a keyword ARD. The core elements are A means assure and R means raise. Okay, assure, raise, and D means designing. In the first core elements point, you can see assure. Business should assure safety and optimal resource use over the life cycle. Similarly, in the second core element, you can see business should raise the consumer awareness of the rights through educational product labeling, appropriation, and helpful marketing communication. Similarly, in point 3, you can see in designing the product. So I've just picked the keywords A, R, D. A means assure, R means raise, and D means designing. Okay, and then that's ARD, and then I've given R cube. Okay, which is nothing but I've just given a few points with respect to R. First R represents regularly review, and second R represents recognize and respect. the rights of people, and the third are users recognize that overconsumption. So with respect to recognize, there are two things business have to be very careful. First one, recognize and respect the rights of people, and then recognize that overconsumption results in unsustainable exploitation of your, that means over usage of or water and all the available resources in this planet will lead to unsustainable exploitation of our planet's resources. So business should make sure that they are using these resources in a very uh, very responsible manner, like I said previously. So let's see what are the keywords for principle 2. It is ARD and then R cube. Okay, I'll tell you how to frame the sentences using these keywords ARD and R cube. I am going to frame, for example, for the first word, A means assure. Like I said previously, all the core elements will start from business should. Okay, now we know what is A. A means assure. Now business should assure. What they should assure? You have to understand the point, and then you can easily frame. So when I say keywords, those keywords are useful for you to pick up the concept, pick up the point with respect to core elements. So that is my objective is to give you keywords with respect to core elements where you will be able to pick these keywords. For example, A means assure, R means raise, D means designing. So when you think about, when you get these words, you'll be able to get the point. For example, assure. What assure? You know that business should assure safety and optimal resource use. And then raise. What business have to raise? Business should raise consumer awareness of the rights. Okay, in designing. Okay, D means designing. In designing the product, what are the steps business have to make sure with respect to principle 2? Principle 2 is with respect to providing goods and services that are safe and contribute to sustainability throughout the life cycle. So that is ARD and R cube. Okay. Principle 3. Business should promote the well-being of employees. Like I said, principle 3 is employee, which is very, very basic. So now think from a business perspective. You are going to hire a person. So now what are the basic things you have to make sure the employee is correct, and the employee is something that you picked based on this principle. So now at the time of recruitment stage, point number 1, you choose a person who is a major. 1 point is over. That is a major. And the next point is you choose a person without any other. You choose a person based on his skill. Okay, there is no biased decision. Okay, and then the next point. Okay, and then you can go to point number 1. What is point number 1? Point number 1, to after you recruit a person, now the recruitment stage is over. Now after recruiting a person, you have to give freedom of association, participation, and collective bargaining areas. You have to give these rights to the employee. Point number 1 is over. So now what are the remaining points? There are few remaining points. 1 point relating to women. Okay, whereas woman, with respect to woman, 1 point with respect to women, that means business should take aware of the work-life balance of its employee. Cognizance means awareness. That means business should take aware of the work-life balance of its employee, especially that of women. 1 point with respect to women, that is what I have given as women. And then there is another point with respect to physically challenged, and the next point with respect to timely payment. So now we have covered 6 points with this area. So now the remaining 3 points are with respect to infrastructure. What is infrastructure? You are going to provide some employment opportunity. So what is the infrastructure you have? Okay, is that safe and hygiene? 1 point is over. And the next one is skill and competence. You have to give some good skill and competent environment for the employee so that the employee can also grow. Another point is over. The last point is with respect to harassment. Whether a system and practice are there in the structure that you have created for harassment, for people to raise any kind of harassment issues. So these are the core elements business should take care with respect to principle 3. That is principle 3. Now principle 4 is the next level. Like I said, out of box. Out of box means think about all the stakeholders affected by your business. Business should respect the interest of and be responsive towards all stakeholders, especially those who are disadvantaged, vulnerable, and marginalized. And the ratio is 2:4. That means there are 2 principles and 4 points with respect to core elements. Okay, let's go to the 4 core elements. Okay, these core elements, the important the important points are: first point, like I said, shareholders, just identify your shareholders. That is point number 1. And the next point is you just accept that you are responsible for these stakeholders as well. That means whatever business decisions you are going to take that going to impact these shareholders, now take the responsibility. Point number 2. And then the point number 3 is give special attention to stakeholders in the areas of underdeveloped. So with respect to underdeveloped areas, give special attention. And the fourth point is resolve differences with shareholders in a just fair and equitable manner. So okay, there are 4 points. Identify the shareholders, should acknowledge, assume responsibility, and the third point is special attention should be given to underdeveloped areas. And the last one is just business should resolve differences with stakeholders in a just, fair, and equitable manner. Whenever there is an issue, okay, you should treat all the stakeholders in an equal manner. That is the point. Point number 5. Business should respect and promote human rights. This point is very, very easy. Okay, with respect to human rights, let's go to the core element. With respect to core element, point number 1, understand the human rights content of the Constitution of India. First point is business have to understand the human rights content of the Constitution of India. Second point, integrate respect for human rights in management system. First point, you have understand what is the human right content in the Constitution. And the next point is integrate, that means bring those points into your management system. And the third point is you have to recognize and respect that there is a system in place with respect to human rights. That means in the first point you read what is human right based on the Constitution, and the second point you brought those points into your management system, and the third point you accept that there are systems in place for human rights, okay, for all the stakeholders. That is third point. And then the fourth point is that you have to create awareness. You have to spread that news that there are systems in place for human rights, and we are also following these human rights in the business. You have to spread these kind of awareness. The last one is you should avoid dealing with certain people who are avoiding these human rights principle, that is complicit. Okay, with that we are done with principle number 5. Principle number 5, principle number 6 are almost same with respect to core elements. I think that is more sufficient. Let's go to principle number 7. Principle number 7, like I said, which is for the advanced business. Okay, now your business has reached to the next level where you are going to think about these principles. Principle 7 and principle 8 and principle 9. Principle 7, you are going to frame the policies. You are going to suggest certain policies to the government. You are a key business partner from government perspective, where government will ask certain advices with respect to policy creation. At that time, what you have to do? You have to give a fair view. You should not give certain things only create value to your business, whereas create any unfairness to the opposite party. So the thing is that you have to give a fair view when with respect to policy framework. So okay, the word policy advocacy is very, very important with respect to principle number 7. Principle number 7, there are 2 points, 4 elements, and there are 4 points with respect to principles. First principle, I am going to cover 4 principles as well as 2 core elements here. 4 principles. Principle number 1, the principle recognizes that business operate within the specific. Okay, the first principle accept that. The first principle acknowledges that businesses operate within the specified legislative and policy frameworks prescribed by government. That means you are doing your business within the circle, within the areas suggested by government. You are doing business within India, then these policies are applicable. You are doing business except Jammu and Kashmir, because this principle is not applicable to Jammu and Kashmir. For example, I'm telling, okay, based on the policies and procedures given by government, you are doing your business within the respective legislature. That is point number one. Next point, principle acknowledges that in a democratic setup, such legal frameworks are developed in a collaborative manner. That means this principle suggests that yes, we have created this principle with a consolidated view of all the stakeholders in this industry. Okay, that is principle 2. The third principle is the principle in that context recognizes the right of business to engage with government. That means this principle also suggests and highlight that highlight the right of each stakeholders with respect to raising their voice, with respect to changing the principles or framework to the government. And the last point is this principle emphasizes, that means highlights, that policy advocacy must expand public good rather than diminish it or make it available to a selected few. What is policy advocacy? Policy advocacy is nothing but policy framework. That means when government regulates certain policies for this particular industry, they will get in touch with you. They will take your feedback. While giving your feedback, you have to give a genuine feedback. That is the point. That feedback should not benefit only to you. That feedback will benefit to this entire environment. Okay, so that is the point. Core elements, 2 points, very easily. Okay, core elements, 2 points. Point number 1, business, while pursuing this policy advocacy, must ensure that the advocacy positions are consistent with the principles and core elements contained in this guideline, which is nothing but while suggesting certain policies, while pursuing policy advocacy, business ensure that these principles, national voluntary guidelines principles, are covered. Business must ensure that these principles are also taken into consider. Point number 1 is over. And the next point, business, to the extent possible, the industry chambers and association and other such collective platforms, okay, before giving their suggestion. Principle 8, business should support inclusive growth and equitable development. Inclusive means growth. Inclusive growth means economic growth that creates employment opportunities and helps in reducing poverty. That means when you create employment opportunity, you should give that employment opportunity to all the people in an equal manner. Like caste, creed, and religion, you should not see those areas, and you have to give them in an equal manner. Then only people will, their economic status will also grow along with your growth. That is the point, inclusive growth. When I say inclusive growth, the ratio is 3:4. 3 principles and 4 core elements. Let's go to the 4 core elements. When 4 core elements, I cube, triple I, okay, that is, and then okay, I'm going to cover these points. First one, I cube means 3 times you have to use this I, letter I. I means impact, I means innovate, and I means invest. Point 1, impact. Okay, so when I say these keywords, you have to frame sentence. First, see impact. When you get this word impact, now how are you going to frame a sentence? The easiest way is, now you know that business should is the first letter you are going to start. Business should, and then impact. Business should understand their impact on social and economic development and respond through appropriate action. Business should understand their impact on social and economic development and respond through appropriate action. Next point, business should innovate and invest. That is my second I. And the third I is invest. Innovate and invest in products and technologies. That is P2P, product, technologies, and processes. Okay, let's see. Impact their process. When I say impact their process. Innovate and invest in P2P, product, technology, and processes. Okay, and then the next point is with respect to resettlement and rehabilitation. That means as a result of your business, certain people are severely affected. So what is the compensation that you are going to give? The best example is Sterlite. As a result of Sterlite business, a lot of surrounding people the people surrounded in that area are severely affected. So business have to compensate them. They have to give proper place and also for their livelihood. So that is point number 3. And the point 4 is sensitive to local concern. So when business operates in a local area, they have to business operating in regions that are underdeveloped. So while doing your business in underdeveloped area, you should be very careful with respect to local concerns. That is the last point. Okay, let's go to principle number 9. Like I said, principle number 9 is for the high level people. So while creating value, you have to do that in a responsible manner. That is principle number 9. Okay, with respect to that, I have few keywords that you can use it for. 6 keywords I have just identified for better recovery. So these keywords are serving the needs. When I say serving the needs, that means business, while serving the needs of customers, they should take into account the overall well-being of customers. The next one are not restrict the freedom of choice. Business should give the choice to the customers. They should not restrict the freedom of choice of the customers while serving the products. For example, your product is something is what customer is expecting, but you're not giving your product. You're giving a condition that if you want your product, you also request the customer to buy another product which is similar to this, whereas customer is forced to buy the other product so that the customer will get this product. So this is something that you are affecting the freedom of choice of your customer, which is not fair. Okay, let's go to the third point. Third point is you have to disclose it in the information about the products, the truth and facts about the products in the product label. And the next one is promote and advertise. While doing the promotion and advertise, you have to be very careful. The last one is due care and caution. Okay, and the last one is grievance handling mechanism. Okay, while promote and advertise your products, okay, you should be very careful that your customers should not mislead or confuse. Okay, so that is one point. And the next one is you have to give utmost care with respect to goods and services that result in over exploitation of natural resources or lead to excessive conspicuous consumption, like water, air, and and all the natural resources should be protected well, and you are responsible for that as a business person. And the last point is business should provide adequate grievance handling mechanism to address customer concerns and feedback. Those are the 9 principles of national voluntary guidelines. So some quick tips. So like I said previously, there are all the principles as 2 categories. One is principle and the other one is core element. Core elements are for the business. Principles are suggesting that what each principle conveys, what each principle assumes, what each principle acknowledges. So now these are some quick tips I've just given in the notes. All the points start with principle, conveys that what each principle accepts and suggests. All the core elements are for the business. Okay, it will start with a should follow condition. Business should, all the points will start with this way. You can just like that start and then use these keywords that I said. Like you can start with business should and then you can use the keywords and you'll be able to frame sentences. All you have to do is just understand what they are trying to see, and then understand, just remember these keywords and these basic steps. Like all the core elements will start with business should, and you are good to form a sentence. Okay, so okay, and then all the principal points are related to acceptance and the suggestions. Okay, I also request you to use the word accept instead the word recognize in all the core elements point for a better understanding. So okay, that's it from my side. Hope you like this video. Just let me know your feedback in the comment section. Thanks for watching. Cheers.